Hey, it's your close personal friend, Lou Brutus, and I'm assuming you have already read my book, Sonic Warrior My Life as a Rock and Roll Reprobate. If you haven't, screw you. No, I'm just kidding. You should read it, but you should also read the books of my next two guests. This is sort of the Harddrive book club segment. You're going to see me chatting with Nikki Sixx about his recent book, The First 21. I'm also going to be talking with my old friend, Frank Bello of Anthrax, about his new book, Fathers, Brothers, and Sons. As a matter of fact, you can register to win each of those books by going to harddriveradio.com. Of course, if you like the video, you hit like and subscribe and all that nonsense. But decide after you watch me with Nikki and first Frank Bello. Here we go. Hey, I'm Lou Brutus. It is always a great pleasure to welcome my next guest, who I've known for more years than either of us would like to admit. He is the bass player for Anthrax and also a phenomenal author. His new book is Fathers, Brothers, and Sons: Surviving Anguish, Abandonment, and Anthrax. Hello, Frank Bello. How are you, man?
Hey Lou, how are you, brother? Nice to see you.
You know what? I think this book might be one of the finest examples I've ever seen of taking negative things and turning them into positive things. And I had no idea about this part of your early history. So tell everyone about the premise of the book and how it came to be.
Oh, thank you for the kind words first, Lou. Well, it came to be, we're in this, I'm still in my basement, as we all are. And Joel McIver, my co-writer, he's been after me for years. We just counted up as 8 years we started to talk about this thing. When's their time? When is their time? Joel's doing something. I'm always on tour. Finally, this thing happened right in the seat I'm sitting. It was time. We just talked to each other, and we started. And once that fuse was lit, it didn't end. It didn't stop with the stories because I didn't realize how many of them I had in my head once he lit the fuse. And Joel is very good at my history, which I didn't even know. He knew a lot of things that I completely forgot. And once he started them off, the stories kept coming. And yeah, this is a story of my upbringing, how abandonment. It's a big deal with abandonment. Big abandonment in my life is really had this whole cloud forever, and I refuse to let it hold me down. I always said, "Fight the good fight," and I have a 15-year-old son. I really wrote this for him and for the people in my family that nurtured me to be what I am. And it's a pro-women book, that's for sure, because they were the strong people in my life. After my dad took off, they held me together, and I want to show my son that you can do this too. You can brush yourself off after getting hit down and knocked down so many times. You know what? And it's not a sob story. This is just a fact of life. You're down, you get up, you brush yourself off, and you move on, and you build your life. And that's what it is for me.
Why do you suppose it is? And was there anything you learned through the process of writing the book? Why is it that so many creative people seem to share a rough upbringing? It's not a 100% thing, but boy, oh boy, it seems to happen more often than not.
I think it's expression. I think it's cathartic. This book is a big therapy session for me. It really was because I feel raw as we speak, you and I, Lou. I'm raw, and it's a good raw because it's all out there. I haven't left anything. You have it in that book from my life. It's everything from the abandonment thing to my brother's death. That's really still hard to talk about, but there's a full chapter on my brother and the criminal court system in New York in general, and how we went through that, and how it was like a Scorsese film, the good guys and the bad guys on the same in the same court. It was ridiculous. Um, I want people to know that it's not a happy ride up. You know what? There's a lot of peaks and valleys. But you know what? The whole idea is, we were talking about this before, to adapt and move on with your life. Because what else do you have? What are you going to wither away? It makes no sense to me. So again, this is for my son. This is for people who have had hardships, and so many people are hitting me up now that are reading the book, um, and saying thank you for writing this. And for me, it's a godsend because it's affecting people. It's making people feel better about things, and it's not a self help book, but look, if I did it, they can do it, and that's the whole point here, man. Just brush yourself off, move on with your life.
Frank, I probably could not count the amount of times you and I have talked about all of the weirdo, fun, usually music related things we have collected through the years. You and I are both pack rats. I can look at the wall and the room behind you and see illustrations of that. Did that come in handy for you at all, writing the book? Because I found when I wrote my memoir, going back and having all of the passes and the ticket stubs and the set lists keyed my memory a lot. Did you have a wealth of things that you were able to draw off of to help pull the stories out?
I did. I did because photos, Joe McIver, again, I have to say my co-writer has an amazing memory to begin with. And he's been a lot of these shows that we've talked about in the book. He knows my history of Anthrax. He's an Anthrax fan, so that always helps. And it's a great way it's a great thing when you have somebody just triggering something and you don't realize what you have in your head until it's triggered, man. And you probably did this with yours, right, Lou? You have these memories and you don't realize, man, and you kind of forgot about them, but all of a sudden they're right here, front and center. And the Metallica stories, all these God, I mean, these early Anthrax stories that are in this book, the good times. We've had a lot of great times. So there's a lot of great stories in this book, rock and roll stories. Yeah, there's some sadness of my life, abandonment, murder of my brother, all that stuff. It's peaks and valleys, just like life is. Life is. This is real life. This book, and I'm not trying to sell anything. This is how I did it, and if it could help anybody out there to have a better tomorrow, or even have it tomorrow, um, I guess I just want to pay it forward at this point. It's really important to me.
Because of the intensely personal nature of a lot of the material in the book, did you go to anybody, family or friends beforehand and say, hey, listen, I just want to give you a heads up. I got this book coming. Some of this family stuff is going to be discussed there, because I know for a fact those are not easy conversations to have.
It's a great question, Lou. Yeah, I did. My mom, first and foremost. My brother, if you guys who don't know the book yet, my brother unfortunately was murdered when he was 23 years old in the Bronx, New York, March 25th, 1996, the worst day of all of our lives. Um, at the murder scene, I still have a hard time talking about it. At the murder scene, it was my mom, and it looked like one of those Law and Order sets where it was just like the murder scene. You have the victim. Unfortunately, they had my brother under a sheet, and all I can see was his new shoes that he just got. And I remember he was very proud of these new shoes. He was very fond of them. And what sucks about even more, it sucks even more that those new shoes had blood on them. And it's embedded in my brain. And all the therapy I've been through already for all this, it still hasn't gone. But saying it in print, getting it out and making people know that moment and feeling that, how I was hugging my mom, it was so important for them, for me to convey to them this moment happened. And yet I still found a way to get out of that zone. And yeah, I'm going to tell you this, if you read the book, if people who read the book, after my brother's death, I became a hunter. And I've said this in other interviews, but it's real. I became a hunter because I went dark. Lou, and nobody knows this. My wife didn't know this until she read the book. I went dark for 2 weeks after that. I went to the wrong people, got the wrong things in my hand, and I was patrolling and hunting that same vicinity where the murder scene happened, and getting on any leads, talking to a lot of wrong people, and that's as honest as I can be with you. And 2 weeks of that, thankfully, um, something came over me, and it was my mom. It was my mom's thought of what would happen if I went through what I was going to do. If I went through with this either I was going to be dead on the other side of it, or I was going to go to jail, and then she would have lost a second son. And that's really what pulled me out of that zone, because it was happening. Lou, I can't be any more honest than this. It was happening. It was a tunnel vision thing. I can give a shit about Anthrax, life, anything. Nothing mattered except this mission I had. And it was a scary one because I didn't know I had that. I didn't know I had that dark place. And I never want to go back there either. But I would have lost my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. It was a lot to lose, and I think that pulled me out, and I saw clear. And I went back into therapy even more after that, and I had to dig in deep because I didn't know where that came from, and it scared the fuck out of me because there's no controlling it. And I don't want anybody to go through that. So maybe reading this, yeah, it was a dark place, but again, brush yourself off, man. You got to move on because my brother, who was murdered, he would have slapped the shit out of me even if I even thought about doing this because he was a bigger dude, and he would have said, "Are you kidding me? Get back to your life." And I guess it all made sense, you know. And I'm glad. Look, I'm glad I didn't go there. It was that other guy that I never want to see again.
Has mom read the book?
Mom has not read the book. I'm trying to find a way because my mother, unfortunately, right now she's sick. She doesn't have the best of health. I don't want to hit her with it because it's a
Yeah.
lot. And you read the book, so it's a lot. Um, Especially that scene and that chapter is really, it hits you hard, no matter who you are. For my mom to relive it, I have to talk to my sister and my family about how to approach this. She wants the book. I'm probably um, I'm gonna take it slow with her. I think I want to be prepared. I wanted to be prepared and let her understand it's everything that night happened and what happened afterwards. She didn't know about me hunting, and I kind of don't want her to know that, but she's going to know it. You know, she
Mm.
didn't know I was like that, and it kind of, I don't want to disappoint her, but she'll understand it. So it's yeah. So that's a great question, but yeah, that's a conversation for sure. But I know she wants to read it.
Well, it's an incredible story. It's an amazing book, and boy, good on you for being able to be so honest with everything in it, because it's that kind of a book. Again, when I put my memoir together, it was all just goofy road stories, so it was easy and fun to write. My life has not, you know, been nearly as interesting as yours, but I'll tell you something. I'm very happy for you that you got it out, and it sounds like it's done some good for your soul.
It has, and again, I have to say to people, it's not just about the sorry stuff, the sad stuff. It's a lot of great rock and roll stories and
Yeah.
a lot of fun. The Pantera days, drinking, coming home gray off of Pantera tour, literally because I was completely numb. A lot of great times and a lot of good people are in this book, and it's been a great ride, Lou. You know, not that I'm done. Look, we're nowhere near done,
Yeah.
but this up till now, it was the time to do it. It was COVID time, and it all made sense. And again, if we can help one person, I don't care who it is. It's not to sell a book. If we can help one person to get a better view of their life for tomorrow, why not? Everybody feels like shit now. Let's start making people feel better, right?
Quick aside, through all of my years of doing this stuff, I have usually found backstage at concerts to be one of the more unexciting places on earth. It's a bunch of guys pissed off and cold. Nobody has slept. They're sitting on road cases staring at their phones. However, Pantera backstage was exactly like what people think backstage is, but never really is.
Yeah.
Are there any anecdotes that come to the top of your head being on the road with Pantera?
All of the above, but this look, I call Pantera the Van Halen of metal. I always did that because they would party. It was party time.
Yeah.
Those guys I love them to death. They're my friends. The anecdotes, we were talking about this a little while ago, Lou. Remember? Long story short, there was a lot of drinking on the Pantera tour, obviously. So Anthrax weren't used to that kind of drinking. They literally taught us how to do black tooths and all that stuff and get numb. That's what happened. You go backstage with Pantera or on stage, they become, I'll tell you this, Lou. Dimebag, rest his soul, my brother. He would, during Anthrax, I said, it was Anthrax Pantera. We were playing, and all of a sudden, a spotlight would come on the stage during the set, dude, and it would be Dimebag with a tray full of black tooths, dude, during our set. So we had to stop. It was Dimebag just walking out. The crowd's going nuts, right?
Handing out shots.
Dude, black tooth shots. I'm talking about a full-on tray, kick our ass, fucking black tooth, right? And you had no choice. It's Dimebag. So the thing stops. The show stops. People are going fucking nuts. Let's go. And right away, Well, I'll have to do, and not one shot, dude. It's at least 2 or 3 shots from that tray.
Yeah.
So you're playing and you're fucked. You're like, woohoo! Everything's feeling good, right? This guy taught me to live life, to live life, not only through the drinking stuff, but to enjoy every moment. It's really important to know that. And those guys, they had this time, this capsule of time that we were so lucky to be part of. The backstage antics, all that stuff. They, I'll tell you this. We were talking about. Remember, I was talking to Lou, just so the people out there know this. I On the Pantera tour, we got drunk in Mexico City. Long story short, we were on the streets of Mexico City. We went to one of those stands with sausages. You shouldn't eat. You shouldn't fucking eat this, right?
You may as well like do bad drugs or something. It's gonna be the bad drugs would be healthier for you than the food out of the cart.
Absolutely. So what? Of course, when you're drunk, you want to fill that void, and right, all of a sudden, so you're gonna fill. You're gonna. I ate 2 sausages, 2 sausage rolls, which is really stupid, and I get it. Long story short, after that night, puking, all that stuff, I couldn't hold anything in my stomach for a year. Lost all this weight. Finally, this one doctor finds I have 2 parasites under my liver, and this is why it's causing all this havoc. We do the second leg. I go back on tour at Pantera for the second leg of that tour, and they still, they still want me to drink. And the doctor says this medicine you cannot drink. So I'm hiding in the back of my tour bus. I'm hiding because I'm afraid Dime's going to come in and make me drink. All of a sudden, I hear, dum, dum. I'm in the back of the tour bus, dum, 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 banging on the door. Let's go. Comes in Black Toots, man. I had no choice. Fried in the back, man. Done. I don't know. So it was prolonged. The medicine didn't take. It took a while because after that tour, I got serious with the medicine and then healed up. But it was that kind of fun though, because you couldn't say no. And the best people in life, Pantera. And I'm saying you, man, that's in the book. There's a lot of great stories in the book that just the fun antics of rock and roll. They were it, and we were privileged to be part of that. And friends and family. They're family, man. The best.
We usually do this stuff over the phone. I like this much better.
Yeah, although I gotta say, and please don't take this the wrong way, I'm a bit disappointed because you're in LA. Yeah. And I really thought I was going to be getting a gander at your beautiful, recently purchased and improved home in Wyoming.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be up there. It's covered in snow, believe it or not. And I'm down here in California, and everybody's in flip-flops. And then we're going to take a little break and go to the beach for like a week, and then we'll be back up in the snow for the rest of the year. So I really enjoyed the change of seasons. It had a lot to do with Wyoming, had a lot to do with this actual book and the starting of the creative thought process behind the book.
Well, you know what? Let's dive right into that. My initial thoughts and questions in my head had been about getting background material for it, because anytime anybody delves deep into their early life, there are going to be joyous things they find, and there's going to be like, pictures you see that are like, oy vey. So tell me about the highest of the highs and the more embarrassing aspects of what you found material wise as you put this together.
Well, the idea behind the book was originally the first 21 written by Frank Ferrana, which was my father's name and was given to me. And then at the end of the book, we realized, I changed my name legally to Nikki Sixx for a lot of reasons. I didn't want to carry on my father's name. I didn't want to go by his name because of the information that was given to me by my mom. So I've been carrying that suitcase, which is heavy, around with me for a long time. And a lot of people said, yeah, but if you weren't like feeling abandoned and pissed off. And by the way, my dad did leave. It's like he doesn't like get a get out of jail free card. He still did leave when I was less than 3 years old, but for reasons that were different than what I was told. After I got sober and I did the heroin diaries and really got into recovery and started becoming part of a community and giving back, I believe you need to give back more than you take. So the more you get, the more you got to give back. That's a pretty cool concept. Started diving deeper and deeper into my actual self. I am Nikki Sixx. It's my children's name. Sixx is my children's name, and we'll go on and on and on. But like, who was Frank? Well, what I've come to find out is Frank, is there's a million Franks out there. You know, you might have a young kid. He sees his uncle playing basketball and his uncle shows him a few things. And he has that moment because he now has become a dreamer. He wants to be on the NBA and he gets on his favorite team, becomes the star of the football team. I mean, the basketball team, or it happens with musicians and actors or people that are entrepreneurial. People that sometimes come from small towns and have big ideas. Sometimes, you know, people come from big towns and have big ideas, but it's the idea of the dreamer. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on that. And then by doing the book, unraveling some of the historical inaccuracies, we also kind of saw like an interesting pattern. Like I was taught by my grandfather, my grandmother basically raised me. We moved a lot, went from blue collar job to blue collar job, and he was a mechanic and he worked in gas stations, and he got up at 5 a.m, came home at 8 o'clock at night. He never complained. And I was taught to work hard, whether I was working on the farm or anything else I did, and never complain. And I start to see this pattern where when we get into the 70s and we have this like discovery of new music and discovery of self and coming of age, and I did make it down to Los Angeles from a town of 4,000 people, I saw patterns. And the book is interesting. I didn't really mean it to turn out like this, but it's a little bit of a roadmap for success. If people like actually, they get through the family part, they realize every family's mucked up, let's just face it. And then they get into that part where they're starting to have self-discovery. And within those 21 years, we most all, and I'm sure you too, at some point was like, that's what I want to do. I mean, that's what I want to do. I mean, for me, radio was an interesting thing. I fell in love with radio when I was like 6 years old. I thought it was like the Wizard of Oz. Like, where is this music coming from? And how is this person talking to me? You're so young. And it was very impactful for me. And at one point I had a radio show for quite a few years. I really enjoyed that and helping to expose other artists to that fan base. So we learn stuff along the way, and some of it's wrong and some of it's right. And we're downloaded stuff along the way, and some of it's right and some of it's not. So this book is cathartic for me.
How is it that you're able to take these things in your life, many of which in your youth were unpleasant, and turn it not only into a coherent narrative, but also make it entertaining?
Right. Well, I mean, the entertaining part is interesting because, and no one's mentioned that to me before, so I appreciate that. I've come to realize in my life and looking at my own life historically that I'm basically a documentarian. And I do photography. That's what I do. I've done gallery showings because I'm documenting stuff. As a writer, when I was a young boy, there would be a car crash or a fight at school. Now, I couldn't wait to get to my notepad and write about it, but I didn't write, hey, Jimmy, socked Johnny in the face over blah. It was a story, a long story that involved torrid tales and all this stuff. And I had notepads and notepads full of this stuff. I was, as a young kid, documenting it. And I actually never, like when I was in Jerome, Idaho, and I was a young kid and I was discovering Chicago and Deep Purple and T-Rex and the New York Dolls and Elton John, I was never like, I'm going to be a musician. I was like, oh, I like this guy, Elton John, because he tells stories. Oh, I like this guy, Jim Croce, because he tells stories. And then you go listen to the lyrics to Dr. Feelgood and you go, or on with the show, and you go, oh, I kind of get it. But, in Motley Crue, we balanced it between lifestyle and some of that self-scratching itch stuff like Primal Scream that was pure Motley Crue, in your face, has the shouts, arena rock, but it was really about my mom and dad. It was about that in a book that I read called Primal Scream. So to answer your question, I think because I'm a natural, or at least I'm naturally drawn to storytelling. It comes out in books and albums and photography, and I guess that's where the cohesive is, because I have no education in I didn't even graduate high school. I was asked to leave because I was an entrepreneur. I was very good at rolling joints, and the principal I was good, man. I could make, between classes in 1976, 77, I could make about $2 to $4. So like I was like rolling out of there. I didn't even know there was anything called the IRS. I'm rolling out of there every day with $10, $15, $20 a day. I'm making $100 a week rolling joints at school. I mean, what's that in 2021? But all the things that I did in the book that I talk about, things like that, and some of the other weird shenanigans and weird jobs, and venting companies and doing stuff. It was always to buy bass strings, rehearsal space. How could we make our drum riser bigger than the other band's drum riser? Whatever it was. How could we get balloons and drop them out of the ceiling when I was in this band London, in clubs? How could we build these huge go-go lights that we would stand in? And when those things lit up and you're in a club of 600 people, I mean, it's like a stadium show, for that moment in time. So everything that I did was always for the dream that eventually became the mothership, which was Motley Crue.
Quick aside, do you hit your publishing deadlines, or are you the, hey, I need another week kind of guy? Because there comes a point where they just tell you, no, you can't make any more changes.
Yeah, no, right on the button. Deadline Nikki, I guess. I love it. I've been trained, and actually my wife, and it makes her crazy. I'm like, all right, dinner's at 8. We got to leave at 7:45, and she's like, okay, tour manager, because I actually do get anxiety if I'm late or I don't. So whether it's music deadlines or publishing deadlines, or I really like to work hard. I realized during the process of this book, I've been tired since I was 13 years old. I don't think I've had a day in my life where I woke up and went, I feel rested, because whatever this thing is inside this skull, it's like rats running around a circle trying to catch cats. It's like, well, when this book was just finished, I hadn't even gotten the galleys. I was sitting with my wife. It was a beautiful early evening in Wyoming, and we're looking out at the mountains, and she made this beautiful dinner, and we're sitting there, and I said, hey, I got this idea for a new book. She goes, oh my God. Did you not taste the veal parmesan I just made you? Did you not realize that your book's not even out? But, that's the creative brain. It's a thing, man. It's not always a good thing, but it's a thing. So yeah, deadlines are important to me.
Tell me about book tour, and tell me about what you want to do on it. I know you just don't want to go out there and shake a hand and sign something.
That's why we're not doing a book tour, because I don't want to give the fans anything less than a full experience. I really enjoy book tours. Some of the cities we go to, we get over 1,000 people, and sometimes we'll be there from 9 a.m. till the stores like, look, we legally have to close and try to sign as quickly as possible. And things have changed over the years. Like on my early book tours, and even with the Dirt, people line up and you get the hug and you get the high five and you get the picture. And now it's gotten to the place where they're trying to keep a little bit more organized. And I remember when they were like, can't really do the picture thing. And then we tried to figure out a way around that. So I would be sitting there signing, and they would turn and their friend would take a picture. And so we got down to, we had 15 cities for this, and I was really excited about it. And it came down to, well, if I want to take photos, I want a high five. There's the fan that so connected to me, they just want to hug. And I like that. Like, I'm a hugger. I remember I went to hug Gene Simmons one day. He goes, I'm not a hugger. I go, well, we're doing a co-headline tour, so you're going to get hugged up a lot. Me hugging on Gene.
I'm sorry, Nikki, I'm not a hugger.
I am not a hugger. You are now. So we decided, in talking to all the retailers and with management and myself and my family, that it just wasn't the right thing to do for the fans to stick 500, 1,000 fans in a sardine can at this time, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And then it was like, well, what about my safety? I have a 2-year-old. So what do we do? Put a plexiglass wall up, that's kind of impersonal. What about the employees? So we opted out, and, it would be fantastic to be out there. It's one of those things that when this thing finally gets, in a headlock and starts to hit the knees and goes down and eventually goes away, or some version of a way, I would like to go out with this book and do a book tour. But next year, we are 100% doing our tour. So that starts June 19th. So band rehearsals start in May. We're going to go back into production or pre-production and design, which we were pretty far down the road anyway. We've had set pieces built that are just sitting there in warehouses in Europe and Vegas and places in LA. So we'll get into that. So I don't think there's anything until after the stadium tour, which is kind of disappointing, for me, and disappointing for the fans. But I guess we got to do what's right.